That's no moon. It's a space station.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. Just a few quick announcements before we get started. Just a reminder, the Mind Nexus conference that Aaron and I were supposed to speak at did get canceled, so we will no longer be there. And if you bought tickets to see us, we apologize, but you can catch us at other events. Me personally, I will be in Springfield, Missouri, October 11th through the 13th for the XCon on X Networks conference, put on by Margie K. I'll be speaking about the history of the secret space program there. And then I'll be in Sedona for the Odyssey event that Tony Rodriguez is putting on. And then in November, I will be in South Dakota for the Star Knowledge Conference, November 9th through the 11th. And I'll be presenting there as well. Those links are all below in the description. Aaron, I don't know where you're going to be publicly next for people to come hang out with you, but I know he will be in Peru soon doing some.
Peru. Come to
Yeah.
Peru in the middle of October. Maybe you'll find me.
Right, right. Awesome. Yeah, I'm jealous. It'll be a great trip. But yeah, so all those links are below in the description. And if you feel compelled or drawn to any of them, grab a ticket, come hang out. I'd love to see you there. And so today we are joined by Hydee Tehana and Lisa Denning. They are dolphin and whale extraordinaires. I don't know how, I don't even know what to call you guys. But so in 2019, I went to Cosmic Waves conference in Hawaii, in Kona, on the Big Island, and that's where it was Joann Ocean's event, and I met a bunch of you guys, and we went swimming with the dolphins, and it was amazing. And then you guys were at ECETI, and then we reconnected there, and we just stayed in touch, and the photos that you guys post are just absolutely amazing of the marine life and the whales and the dolphins and everybody. You just get to swim. It's like your aquatic family that you just get to spend time with. And I absolutely love it. And I'm just really curious to just kind of dive into what you guys are seeing happening right now, because I understand that the marine life is definitely assisting with the planetary ascension, and there's like a multi-dimensional aspect to these dolphins and whales that people don't really understand. And maybe even in some cases like off-world origins, and we're talking about like underwater portals and inner earth and all that woo stuff. But there's something to it. There's really something to it. And I know you guys are friends with Joann Ocean. I don't know how that relationship started, but she's the one who got you guys into it. So I'll turn it over to you and let you guys tell that story of, how you found yourselves doing this and what that's been like.
Well, let's see. I'll just start with Joann Ocean because she's the pioneer really that's been doing this for over the last 45 years. And she was always been a scientist and researcher, but also like a psychologist. And so she's got a really good background with the left brain and the researching mind. And she's also very psychic and telepathic. And so she started to realize back, I think in the 80s, that she had an experience with a gray whale that basically rolled up on the beach and started sending her waves and waves and waves of love. To the point where she thought she was going to disintegrate because she was feeling so much love and light from this being. And it was like really an activation and a download for her to realize, wait a second, this is where I'm going next. Because she was like being guided by a group from what was it called? I'm sorry, a group called the Nine. And some people may have heard them. They say that, what are they, the 9 of the 12 of the 24 elders, whose light is as bright as Sirius B. I think that's how she describes the group that she works with. And so they're an off-world group who were helping guide her on her mission. And so that basically, for an intro, that's kind of an opening for Joan, because it basically led her to Hawaii, where she started swimming with wild dolphins, like huge pods of wild dolphins. And she was doing the research there, but then also was having these telepathic communications of bring people to swim with us, bring people to swim with us. And so she basically started doing that and realizing that they were activating humanity and reminding humanity who we are, what we're doing here, activating us on a whole nother level. And I'll turn it over to Lisa because that's what brought you here. Because Lisa's been with them or with Joan for like the last 25 years. I came in about 10 years ago, so kind of feel like jump in there.
Yeah, sure. I guess for me with the dolphins, it started when I was really young. I was always a water being. I learned how to swim by watching other people swim and just dove in and started swimming, and kind of at a young age was having memories of being able to breathe underwater and trying to recreate that, just little snippets along the way that make more sense in my life now. But the dolphins are always something that I was really drawn to. That's what I was doodling in school and dreaming about and wondering, like, what is this connection for me? Who are these beings? And that continued throughout my life. And I was finally able to have an experience in my early 20s with the dolphins, where one dolphin swam. This was in captivity, but it was a really powerful experience. A dolphin swam over to me and just put his eye right next to my head and looked at me, and I felt seen. I felt this stillness. I felt something that I had never felt before in my life. And for me, that really switched on something in me. I was like, I need to find out what's going on here. Who are these beings and what's happening? And after that, I just started reading more and researching more and wanting to learn more about the dolphins. And I was at some little metaphysical bookstore in Florida one day looking for dolphin books, and Joan's book fell out. I was grabbing another book and Joan's book fell out onto the floor. So I picked it up. It was her first book called Dolphin Connection. And in this book, she describes a lot of the similar experiences that I had had with them, but then also things beyond my current experiences about other dimensions and traveling and invisibility and all these things. And I was really curious about it, but at that point, hadn't really made much sense to me in my life where I was at. But I read that she was here in Hawaii and there were pods of dolphins here interacting with humans on a daily basis. And that was enough for me to suddenly, I quit my job, I sold my car, I got out of my lease, and I said, I'm going. I have to see what this is about for me. So I came to Hawaii, and that next morning after I landed, I went out to this bay and I sat there for sunrise and I watched as this pod of dolphins just slowly came in, and I swam out and met them, and we swam for hours and hours and hours. And it's hard to get out of the water when you're having these interactions with them. It's just incredible. And that week I met Joan, kind of a coincidence. I met Joan at a gathering and we kind of had this instant friendship, recognition. And that's kind of how it had started with us. We just became connected. And a few weeks later, like, her assistant quit. So she invited me to come work with her. And then I ended up moving into the house with her and really diving in deeper, and learning with her, swimming with her every day. And as Hydee was talking about her research, she calls her research participatory research. So she was learning from being within the pod and watching what was happening, learning individuals, naming them, keeping track of them and what was going on. And for her, like that, then more and more people were being drawn to be with dolphins in the wild. And so it organically just kind of unfolded for her. She started bringing groups and doing meditations, and it just got bigger. And so she started using boats and bringing people out. And through this, she realized, like, how much people's lives were changing after being with these beings, and we can go so many different directions from here. I know you have a lot of questions, but the dolphins and whales are still calling more people into the water. And I feel like they're adjusting our frequencies. They're blasting us with information and inviting us into this other world. That is necessary now, I believe, for, like you said, for where we're going. in this process.
Right. And I found it actually very fascinating when we were down there. I we left the harbor to go swim with the dolphins, right? And all the boats, like every other tour group and everybody was going out to the left, and we were the only boat going to the right. And we just kept going and kept going, and we were like asking Joan what's going on. She was being guided, like she was communicating with the dolphins in a sense, and they were basically telling her where they were. And we showed up and there were hundreds of, I mean, I didn't know you could see so many in one place at one time. And the water is crystal clear. When you look down, the water it didn't get darker. It was like a light source underwater. And and you didn't need a life jacket because like the water was so buoyant, you would just get in there and float. It was like being on another planet. It was pretty amazing. I mean, you guys get to do that every day, but for me, it was life-changing in that moment. So are you guys, when you guys are out there, are you communicating with them as well like that?
Yeah, absolutely. When we actually lead retreats because that's where we were kind of guided to. And so we do the same thing, is kind of tune in to, what are the dolphins, what are the whales doing? Because we do both whales and dolphins. And that whole group of this, they call them cetaceans. They're just like, they feel like they're light years ahead of us. I know we talk about like off-worlders and um beings from another planet. They really are like extraterrestrials in the water that are just this heart-centered, kind and loving beings. And when you tune into them, you can feel that they communicate as a pod. Um and that's what we do, is we tune into, what direction are they at? Are they wanting interactions? Are they working? There's times when they're working underwater and doing different things because I mean, there's lots of things going on so many multi-dimensional worlds, and there's a lot going on under the water. You've got plasma ships and military ships and off-world ships and different, portals that go on under there. And, these dolphins and whales, they're able to work with sound so easily that they can make themselves invisible. They can make themselves, pop in and out of different places. Like a lot of the, extraterrestrials can do that kind of stuff. And they're really reminding us, you guys can do the same thing, and there are, indigenous people and things like that still have those abilities. I know we're here in Hawaii, and there's kahunas and things like that are able to work with frequencies and nature. And so it feels like that's what a lot of the dolphins and whales are really reminding us humans. You guys have all these abilities. Step into your power, like see the constructs that we're in, this matrix world that we're in, and how do we really break free of that? It feels like, like Lisa said, it's a timely thing. Like that's what we're doing here. That's why the dolphins and the whales are really inviting us back into the water, because just being in the ocean is so huge for people too, So
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
with your question about communication too, I think it's different for everybody. And I've noticed for me, sometimes it's very subtle, where it's just this pull, like you said, like, we've got to go this direction. I don't know what's going on. It's got to happen. Things like that. Or it's very obvious. Like sometimes in the water, they're even go into a more 3D communication where they're, I've had them push me into a certain area and guide me and take me somewhere where there was a dolphin that had line wrapped around it that needed help and things like that. So sometimes it's more of that like inner pull, that inner knowing, like we have with intuition stuff. And other times it's very much like, go this way, do this, be here. So it can be different. And sometimes it's after a swim, we'll get home and write, things come in during dreams or other times in their communication with us.
So in their communication, I mean, I have so many questions, but first of all, I'm going to rewind. I think it's fascinating that these dolphins and animals in general come find us when they need help. I've seen so many videos online. We all have. If you're scrolling through those, those reels and stuff, and they'll come and get your attention and lead you to an injured or wounded animal or trapped, whatever it is. And it's oftentimes like if you help them, then they help you. It's funny because sometimes they'll like bring a gift afterwards as a thank you. And there's a real communication that happens that so many people disregard. So I think that's beautiful. And Secondly, when you're getting this information and writing it down, I mean, what type of information are we talking about? Is this stuff that like is largely unknown to the collective? Are you getting new information, or is it like personal, like pertaining to you personally?
For me, it's kind of a combination of both in general. I know for Joan, I've watched her and she gets information, I'd say like 10 years ahead of time with science, where she's been, I remember she was getting information about the power of bubbles and the energy that's in bubbles. And then later on that came out. And then it was like molecular geometry and all of these different things. And she used to hesitate and say, I'm not putting this out. Everyone's going to think I'm crazy. But she's learned to trust that because it always ends up coming out. And so I feel like they're this like years ahead if we can kind of listen with that. I know that she gets a lot of information too, different levels in meditation and in the water. But yeah, that's what it's like for me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm just what when you said that, when we worked on this film it's called
Mhm.
Ocean,
Mhm.
and it's all about basically Joan's life and the consciousness of the dolphins and whales. And when we were putting it together, this had been talked about for quite a long time. And then it really came in strong one day that, this isn't a big dramatic Hollywood movie. This is a documentary where the truth is going to be told, who the dolphins and whales really are. And it was like we started doing interviews with Joan and John Luke, and just like, interviews and interviews and interviews, and they were sharing stories after stories after stories. And John Luke is Joann Ocean's husband, who does a total multi-dimensional art and is just out of this world as well. And a lot of dolphins and whales, dragons and things like that. But once we were finished, it was kind of like, okay, now how do we put this together? And swimming with the dolphins and whales, that's what I would hear. Was I would ask those questions, and I would come back and I would sit down, and it literally feel a dolphin or a whale. Here's what you do, here's the scenes, and here's how they go. And Lisa's such an amazing photographer and has been, videographing Joan swimming with the dolphins and whales for years and things like that. So we had all this footage. And so talking to Lisa, it was like we would go back and forth and be like, she'd be, I have this great footage that we could put for this scene, and so it worked out really perfectly to where all we did is really listen and be guided by the dolphins and whales on how to produce the movie, put it together. And I mean, we look at it and it's such a multi-dimensional film that we're the ones, we've watched it, we've put it together, we've watched it hundreds of times probably, and we still hear something different or something new because it's so
Layers.
yeah, it's just layered with
Mhm.
so much. It's like what your consciousness can take in that moment. And then it's like you listen again and it's like, oh my gosh, I didn't even hear that, And so it's powerful the way the dolphins and whales work. And the way, the dolphins, you've been with them, it's like they have smiles on their face. They're in this joy bubble. They're reminding us to be like those little kids again, of be curious and they don't understand why we hold on to the past. They're kind of like, be in the moment, and you can really feel that. And with the whales, it's like there's so much wisdom that they carry, and just they open our hearts really and bring us back to ourselves. So yeah, there's so much communication going on, like Lisa said. And then they'll blow bubbles, and then you'll get a whole pocket of information, and it's like I mean, I feel like we're all telepathic, and you can hear that from just being around your dogs or your cats or a tree or something. It's like, at least when I receive information, it's like you receive it all at once and then you unpack it. It's like you can't put it all into words because you know it, but then you have to like sit and put it into a human word so that we can communicate through it. Versus I see how telepathy is just so quick, and so that's what we're all learning to do, is control our thoughts, control our mind. And anyway.
So this film you're talking about, is it out yet?
Yes.
Okay. And where can people find that?
The website for the film is joannoceanfilm.com. And
Okay.
it's available to view it online right now. Mhm.
Great. Yeah, we'll have that link in the description. Aaron, did you have any questions about any of this or comments?
Um, So there's many people that have claimed that they've seen dolphins coming in and out of like portals or like appearing, whole pods appearing out of nowhere. I know they've actually discovered that there's more water inside the earth. There's bigger oceans inside the earth than outside. So like there seems to be an inner earth connection with the dolphins as well. So maybe they're going into inner earth and coming from it. Do you guys know anything about any of that?
Well, I've had experiences like that. There's certain bays where we would swim with the dolphins more often. Probably like 80% of the time we would find them in this particular bay. And it was a very deep water bay. And these are pods that we've known really, really well over the years. And we have times when we were swimming where it was all of a sudden, 11 or 12 dolphins showed up and we'd look at them and be like, they look brand new, is what we would say. They had no markings on them. They were totally clear. They had a very different energy, almost as if they had just arrived out of kind of nowhere. And that would kind of spread around. Like, did you see that group of dolphins all of a sudden? That kind of stuff, without really going much further with it. But we would talk about, I guess they came through a portal, I guess that, just kind of like offhanded and not, for me, it was before I was really learning more about that stuff. But I was watching it happen. And the other thing that we've seen a lot is that they disappear. So either they're going through, some kind of a portal, or they're raising their vibration so high that it's like we don't see them anymore.
Yeah.
Because, like you'd say, oh, look over there, look at these dolphins. And you look and they're gone. Or you just kind of watch them go into another dimension
They phase out, kind of like the Sasquatch do the same thing, right? So
yeah.
I've heard the same with Sasquatch, where people have seen literal portals where they're going out of, but they also see them just disappear and appear because they're phasing in and out. I think the dolphins have that same ability.
Absolutely.
Well.
Have you seen any of that, Hydee?
I've seen, I've seen it with the Sasquatch because I've actually seen them go in and out of trees. Couldn't figure out how they were teleporting and moving around the earth. And so, but with the dolphins and whales, it's like you're literally with them and then you're telling somebody, hey, look down, the dolphins are right there. Somebody you're leading a group with or something. All of a sudden the pod is gone. And you're like, wait a second. And you can feel, if you tune in, you can actually feel them. They're still there. And then they're just in a different dimensional space,
Right.
They can all of a sudden reappear. Or like Lisa said, it's like all of a sudden they go in a portal. I've also seen it and felt it where they go in and out of ships, because sometimes we'll be down in a bay and you can feel this energy, this like almost like a gel
Like
kind
plasma.
of. Yeah, it's that's what we call it, is plasma ship. And you can I've been in those and it's like you don't have to breathe when you're in there. You don't have to, it's just a whole nother vibration. And it's literally, these dolphins, like Lisa said, they come out of nowhere with no markings. It's like they're brand new and they literally just come off the ship, So
Right.
yeah, it's pretty fascinating, the whole thing all the way around. I've been in a bay where it was actually like the first time I swam with Joan was back in 2014 she used to call it ET Bay, and there was hundreds of dolphins that we were swimming with in this bay. And there's a group of about like 20, 25 of us. And when we were swimming, I'm a pretty good free diver. I was diving down a lot. And then I got tired and I was kind of coming up to the surface and thinking, well, maybe I'll get back on the boat. And we'd been there a couple hours. And all of a sudden these 3 dolphins surfaced right next to me. And I heard one of them say, dive down with us. And my response is, I'm tired. And that same dolphin started to dive down and looked at me again and said, dive down with us. And I said, I'm really tired. That same dolphin, there's those 3 and they keep going down, turns and looks at me and says, dive down with us. And without thinking, I just decided, okay, I'll dive. So I dive and I'm going and I'm swimming with them. And as I go down, I reach a point where I need to come back up to breathe. And that same dolphin looks at me and says, dive down deeper. Well, with no thought in my brain, no nothing, I kept diving and I just kept going. And I'll put it into words, but there's really no words how it was a feeling, but it was basically when I got down there, 100 dolphins and they were going around in these circles deep down, and it was like utter bliss. Like it was otherworldly. I didn't have to breathe. I was just in this space of just utter bliss. There's just no other words for it. And I don't know how long I was down there or anything, but as soon as I had that thought, like, I should have to breathe right now. I was back at the surface just like that. And I had this headache for for a day that was just like, what just happened to me? And it was like, they shifted my consciousness so quickly that it felt like I had got so much information, so much downloads, and being in this plasma ship basically that, it took me a little while to really integrate that. I remember talking to Joan about it and she goes, oh yeah, that was plasma ships down there. And she said, it happens to us where we'll end up in a plasma ship and it really literally will shift your consciousness and you receive a lot of information all at once. So
That's incredible.
Yeah, that's an incredible story. So have you seen or heard of people like phasing out and disappearing into these portals with them?
Yeah, share with that.
Yeah, we've seen there was one day where there was a very obvious ship in the bay. There was like you could see it. Joan talks about it in the film actually. Some type of a plasma ship that, at first we're like, oh, it's probably just stirred up sand. We tried to think of all these other things that it could have been because it was kind of moving a little bit. But when people were going in and out, they were disappearing. You could see part of yourself and the other part was kind of phasing in and out. It was really bizarre. And there's a picture of it in the film too. It was fascinating. And we've also seen people like when we're swimming together that are suddenly gone, that are phasing in and out. And it's when you get into that in sync with the dolphins and they bring you into this space, because the spinner dolphins here will swim with you eye to eye this close for a long time. And you kind of go into resonance with them, which is a beautiful, beautiful experience. And we've seen friends, like we've been looking for people out there, like, where is so-and-so? Like, we can't find them. And then they're like, well, I couldn't find you either, and it's not just that we're so spread out, like people are going in and out of these spaces with the dolphins. It's an interesting, there's a lot going on out there. And when a lot of people think, oh, we're just going to go play and swim with the dolphins and have a good time. And I think that a lot of times they're distracting us while they're downloading us and they're doing different things. And because sometimes when you get out of the water, you can barely move.
Right. Well, I've heard people have even miraculous healings. I don't know if everybody experiences that, but I've heard stories and I think I might have experienced myself. When we were swimming in the water, this one dolphin broke free from the pod and it came all the way up and just circled me. And then it went back down. And my back, I have back issues and hip issues. And for that trip, I felt like I was healed. Like I literally was healed. It actually brought me to tears. I felt like I had new legs again. And I actually cried. And I called my dad. I was like, I'm healed. Like I couldn't believe it, right? But what happened was when I got back home, the pain came back. And it was like I was no longer in that frequency, but it definitely, I feel like they were showing me that it's possible, that it is possible to shift and exist at another frequency where you're not injured, where you don't have chronic pain. And I don't know if you guys have experienced other stories like that, but maybe if you could share some of those, it might encourage people to come down there and start swimming.
Sure. I mean, all levels of that. We've seen, or I've seen people that have gotten in the water that didn't know they had something going on. And a dolphin was like giving a lot of attention, say, well, this is one friend of mine to his left shoulder, was just kept, and actually was like kind of like nudging and come to find out there was a tumor in there later on. He found out something was going on. And we've had people, and it heals on all those emotional levels too, like you experienced. It brings you to tears. It opens up, and I think it allows that other level of healing to take place when we can move a lot of that stuff too. But Joan and I worked also like with Make-A-Wish Foundation and other organizations and families that would bring kids and people over that had things going on, and we've seen kids talk for the first time, like with autism and things going on. Kids that started walking again in different areas. I know a couple people, their cancer disappeared. You can't really make these big claims because it's so individual for people. But I know I've said before, like I wholeheartedly believe that a dolphin can come up and heal us completely of whatever we have going on just with the frequency and the sound. And I also think that they're teaching us, giving us these experiences to learn how to do that, ourselves, because it's like we're learning more about sound and frequency, and just their sonar itself is incredibly powerful and vibrates, down beyond the DNA level in our bodies. And so there's just so much they're showing us with that. And the same with the whales,
Yeah, I've heard I believe they call it dolphin assisted neural therapy for the autistic kids. Yeah, I've seen the videos where, they'll have the dolphins swim right up and they'll put their nose right to the kid's head, and the sonar, they'll just be emitting these frequencies, and like the kids start to talk. But do they also still do dolphin assisted births? Like, is that still a thing? I know they used to.
I know there was a guy doing it in Russia for many, many years in cold water, and they were following those kids, and those kids were very different after, just kind of expanded consciousness and things like that.
Higher IQs for sure, I've heard. Yeah.
Yeah.
Underwater longer.
It's something that almost, it's a tough thing to time in the wild as far as giving birth. I had read a story about someone doing that in Egypt when she was ready to give birth. She ran out into the ocean and gave birth, and some dolphins showed up. But as far as an organized thing in the wild, I'm not so sure. It would almost have to be a captive situation, fortunately, with that. But I'm not sure if there's an organized.
No, I know there was
Anymore.
some
There was.
in Hawaii for a while, and then for some reason it got shut down.
Yeah, they made it illegal actually for a while, and then I think, but now I've heard that you can do it again. Whatever, they found a workaround, right? But I heard that's why it got shut down. So yeah, I just didn't know if that was something that you were familiar with. But
Yeah,
no, that'd be great if there was more of that, because
it is neat to watch them with pregnant mothers. And I've been in the water with people that are sometimes 7 or 8 months pregnant, or that aren't sure if they're pregnant or not. And the dolphins, I had a really good friend. She was 7.5 months, I think, pregnant, and got in. And a mom and a baby dolphin came up to her. They were sonaring her belly. They circled her the entire time she was in the water. And she ended up using that video and those images that we had of her to focus on during her birth. And she felt them come in and help her. And other people have found out they were pregnant that way, but didn't know they were pregnant. So,
right. Now, what are your thoughts on, we see this marine life beaching themselves all over the planet sometimes, whales, whatever the case is. And I personally believe it's from some sort of frequency weapon or something that's being used underwater, and they can't handle it, right? It's too much. It's like a sensory overload. Do you have any information on that, or have you seen that, or have the dolphins or whales told you about that?
I haven't seen it. Luckily, they're not beaching here, like in mass level, like they are in other places. I do feel like they're bringing attention to it still. I did contribute some footage to a film that was about that, about the sonar and the Navy and the other organizations involved with that are doing that testing or other things like that in the water. There's a lot of evidence to show that that's what's causing it. Often when you see a mass stranding, if you can do the right amount of research and find out, there's often military or some other exercises happening in those areas. And they are, of that pod consciousness. And so if a few of them are hurt and the other, they follow each other, they kind of go together in that area. And unfortunately, even if you can get them back out, sometimes they're injured so badly they can't necessarily survive that. Because, dolphins and whales, when they die, they sink. So it's really hard for the scientists and the researchers to really keep up with how many of them are being affected with that. So when they strand, I feel like it's bringing more attention to that, and letting humans know, like, this is happening. This is still an issue. Like, yeah.
Right. What are your thoughts on this footage that we see of whales breaching the surface and taking out boats and like injuring people, like attacking, right? And in my opinion, like some people are in communication with them and they're just loving fifth dimensional, multi-dimensional beings, and then we can't understand why they would do that unless that person has some sort of karma or whatever. I don't know, but do you have any explanations or have you seen anything like that?
Yeah, I haven't. I've been seeing little bits of the stories. I haven't really looked into it much. I know the orca, they were sinking the yachts and things like that. I know it's kind of become a funny thing, story at this point, but I don't know. I haven't really looked much further into it to see, if they're just bored or they're, I think that I'm curious about it, but I haven't really.
Right. Yeah, my thought whenever I see that is like I immediately wonder what that guy did. Like I feel like
What's their relationship?
yeah, I'm like, what did he do to deserve that, right? Is he out there like cheating on his wife, or is he a pedophile, whatever, And I feel like it's Mother Nature, you know, taking care of things in a way.
Yeah.
Could be.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting you say that because dolphins and whales know exactly where you are in the water. And so when you're swimming with them, I mean, we've been with large humpback whales and sperm whales and, orcas, and it's like they know exactly where you are. They know exactly how close they can come. They know when to dive, they know they're listening and they're paying attention to your thoughts. So when I saw one thing about the humpback that hit a boat or something, and I thought that same thing, like, well, that's interesting. What is that? Because then I also know, like, there's bottlenose out there that are being used for the military and things like that. And sometimes it's like they get messed with too. And sometimes you'll see a rogue bottlenose or something that's a little more aggressive. And sometimes I think, was that one being used by the military, or did it somehow get its brain scrambled? I don't know, because you can feel there's a difference sometimes, and it doesn't happen very often. So it's like, I don't know, that's where I was kind of curious about too, because it's like, well, is it their karma? Or like I think of sharks, like we love sharks. Sharks are amazing. The Hawaiians revere sharks, like they fish with them, it's like that's how the old Hawaiians, they would go and they would chant and call them and go out and grab onto their pec fin and go swim with them and things like that. And it's like, why is there so few shark attacks? But it's such a, Jaws is in the consciousness of everything. And it's like, wow, they're really trying to keep us out of the water because there's so much happening in the water. And the salt crystals are changing our vibrations and all of those kinds of things. So I think, what is it now? Are those even real stories? Because then I kind of think of like that movie Wag the Dog. Like you can make a film about a war. Like, is it real? So how much is AI? How much is not? Like that's what I'm kind of like, where's the truth in it all? And I think that's what we're all looking for, right? Like journey to truth, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. Like
And Tyler, I don't think it's an accident. It's not like, oh, whoops, another whale hit a boat. Like, I don't think it's an accident. They know what they're doing.
That's what I'm getting at. Yeah.
Yeah.
Orcas especially.
Yeah. And not like, in an attack kind of way, but in an experience.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Hmm.
I think they're drawing attention to something. And, you know, like Hydee said, they maneuver in the water so effortlessly. They know exactly where they are. So it's not like a whoops.
Yeah, right. You
Mhm.
see them like navigate the paddle borders and stuff, and like with precision. And it just is almost mind-boggling. Like, how do they know they can get that close? And they're such a big creature, you know?
Yeah.
Maybe there's somebody on those boats with like a frequency weapon or something. Who knows? You know, maybe they're a threat in some way, and they're
Yeah,
taking them out. Who
no,
knows?
no, seriously. Like, I would
Seriously.
not put it past it. Um, what about the whale songs? Like, have you heard any of the beautiful singing and stuff that occurs? Because I've heard some of that, and it's life-changing.
Yeah. For me, it's one of my most favorite experiences to have in the water is to be in the water above a whale that is singing. I mean, even just to hear them in the distance, because you can hear it for miles away, but to have the opportunity to be right above a whale when it's singing is probably the most powerful sound frequency experience I've had in my entire life. It is like you can start shaking and moving and people start crying, people are laughing. It moves so much so fast. Um, and it's like a state of bliss with those whale songs.
Mhm.
I have a lot of recordings of it, and sometimes we just blast it through the house. But
Yeah,
it's really, really, really powerful. Yeah.
yeah,
Like you said, just listening to it, you can feel it, and the way sound moves through water in that way too. It's, and people will play with it like in different positions in the water and like put their arm down. You can feel it kind of up your arm, or they stand on their head, and do different things and you can feel it. Um,
right.
Really, it's incredible. It's incredible.
How
Yeah,
did
Joan actually tells a story that when she was out, it's in the movie, but when she was out in the Dominican Republic and how they ended up waking everybody up in the middle of the night and there was a spaceship that was hanging out over the whales. And she said the whole group started to telepathically communicate with the ship. And they said, "Oh, we're here to talk to the whales and we're downloading the information into the humpback whales." And then she said what would happen is basically the whales would turn and then they would sing those frequencies into the earth. And so that was how they were also using sound, just and to shift the different, into the delay lines and to shift the different frequencies. So there's so much more happening. I love that story that she tells because it was like people were connecting, but then there was also people going like, there was a guy, I guess, on there that was like, wait a second, that's a meteor. No, that can't be a spaceship. He tried to put it into every other thing. No, that's a plane. No, it's this. And he kept it was like he couldn't put it into his
Mhm.
way of seeing things. So it was so out there to see a giant spaceship over the ocean communicating with the whales, but it's
Right.
happening all over the place.
I mean,
That's amazing.
it just goes to show you that they're probably far more intelligent than we are.
For sure.
And they have abilities and things that we just can't really quite comprehend. And that's obviously why the CIA and the military is using these animals for whatever spies, the dolphin spies. We've seen all the documents. I mean, it's a real thing, which also reminds me of whenever Joan Ocean talked about, didn't the FBI raid her home at one point?
I
What
remember hearing
happened?
about that.
Yeah, what happened there?
Yeah. She doesn't often share that story. But
It was early on.
yeah, it was really early on when she was bringing groups, and there was kind of a strange guy that showed up to participate in the group, and they had a weird feeling, like, is this guy a plant? Like they were early, and this was really early when she was first starting. So I feel like,
Yeah, like the
with
90s, I think.
whatever, if they were using looking glass back then or not, but like they they could tell where she was headed and what was happening. Um, and they were really trying to find out who she was and what she was doing with those dolphins. And yeah, so they came in and they, at some point showed up with, guns drawn and this whole thing at her house and raiding and asking her questions. And if I remember right, she told them, like, I'll talk to you in a few minutes. I need to go meditate first. So she went and she sat and she got quiet, and nothing ever really came from it, from what I remember. I don't know if it was a scare tactic, how they like to do, and just kind of threatening, and that she was being watched with what was happening. But she's, she doesn't push against, she goes, she creates what she wants. And it's, she's always coming from a place of love and joy. And, I think anyone putting out that massive of a love frequency is going to draw attention like that.
Right.
And it's, and I think they know these beings, they know how intelligent and how powerful they are, and they're trying to separate us, and they keep trying to keep us out of the water in different ways, because so many people are shifting and raising their vibration and changing, and, and on another level, that like people that come, their lives are changing so much, but they're also bringing, the more they fall in love with these beings, the more they're going to stand up for them and not want all this underwater ridiculousness that's happening, and then they're wanting to get dolphins out of captivity that's making so much money and things like that. So there's a big ripple effect when people connect with these beings in the water.
Yeah. And I remember Joan saying that, hang on a second, excuse me. I remember her telling, when she told the story when I was in Hawaii, that they told her she couldn't swim with the dolphins, and there was a $500 fine if she were to go out into one area. And apparently she had the money, and so she would just go swim anyway and then pay the fine. And eventually they finally just left her alone after they realized that wasn't going to stop her. So, which is beautiful.
Yeah, there was actually a judge that threw it out and said that, like, you can't tell me that, the dolphins can't swim away, or that, that this is this is ridiculous. I don't ever want to see this in my courtroom again.
Right. You're fine for swimming in the ocean.
Right.
Well, and and interestingly, and now
Hilarious.
it's being recycled, that they're trying to stop us again, and they're showing up at beaches and they're giving people tickets and fines for for the dolphins swimming with us. They tell us we have to swim away and don't engage, and it's it's pretty.
Wow, that's
the most
like the next
asinine thing I've ever heard.
That's next level.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
It's interesting you mentioned Looking Glass, and because obviously with that technology, if you had a timeline technology, you can go back to a point in time before a person becomes a threat and try to stop them. So, I mean, if something that I think something like that is likely. Like they could have easily done that with her, just knowing the impact that she's made. And I remember, she's also talked about getting information about some of the aquatic life originating on other planets and then coming here. Do you guys have any information as far as that goes?
Yeah.
Well, she actually, Joan shares a lot, and she shares a lot in the movie about that, and in her books about how the dolphins basically use technology to place themselves in our timeline, and put themselves back, I think in 1931, and put themselves back in the present and the future. But that's the time that they chose in our history to put themselves, because it's interesting here in Hawaii, there's not a lot of history about dolphins. There's more history about sharks here, but they put themselves here at a certain time, and they say that they came through a portal, I think through the sun, but they came from like the watery planets, like on Sirius B, and so some of those kinds of things. I know I've heard other people say there's also different water planets on the Pleiades and things like that. So they're coming from different places. Like many of us are, those extraterrestrials as well, that we're all here to help right now to shift the vibration and raise the consciousness and things like that. So,
Right.
Yep. Really talks about. So, and I know John Lilly, I don't know if you know his work, but he was like a mentor to Joan, and he really explored consciousness and was really into the dolphins, and really did a lot of research. And actually, I think the military, wanted to work with him. And he often talked about like trying to break the code of the language and know what are the dolphins actually saying. he was very telepathic too. And the Dolphins basically told him, well, as soon as you guys break the code, we're just going to change our language, you know? So you guys aren't ready to
Not
hear
ready.
what we're saying. So like they're that kind of higher consciousness of, you know, they're open hearts, they're paying attention to what's going on and they're able to shift those frequencies. But he dove in for a long time with the dolphins and whales, and he got kind of ex-nayed out of a lot of things because he worked with ketamines and different kind of hallucinogenics with the dolphins, and so science, you know, kind of poo-pooed that and was like threw out all of his research. But he's got incredible books, incredible research that's just mind-blowing. And he's the one that also invented those float tanks, the
Oh yeah.
sensory
Yep.
Oh
deprivation,
yeah.
where you can really explore things. And that's what he did, is he really found out the limiting beliefs and things are really within us. And so the dolphins and whales are opening that and saying, you know, can you be, you know, back into that little kid place of that awe and wonder and open and curiosity of like, is this a belief I want to keep? Is this a belief I want to keep? You know, because it's like we do,
Right.
we get, you know, sucked into this system and we can't keep those things anymore, you know, as we move into those higher vibrations. So
Right.
Exactly.
It's so interesting you mentioned them just showing up on the timeline at a certain point. What'd you say, 1931? Am I
Mhm.
mistaken, or do I remember Joan telling a story about like when they came, also like things in our reality changed as far as like suddenly there was a history of them and there was like hieroglyphs in Egypt that showed up that weren't there prior. And did she not go to Egypt and like tell one of the Egyptologists or ask him about the hieroglyph? And he said, no, there isn't any. And she showed him where there was one because the dolphins told her. Did that happen? That
I
was,
think so. I think
yeah,
so. Yep. Yep. And we actually saw the dolphin hieroglyphic when we went to Egypt because I was looking for them and we found it. But yeah, she said when they came in that they brought all of the memories and the history with them. Kind of was, you know, laid into that.
really, really
Yeah.
fascinating.
Amazing.
Fascinating.
To the point where the Egyptologist who knows the area, he's the expert, and like he was like, I can bet you money there is no dolphin hieroglyphics. And Joan was like, I can bet you there is. And she was able to prove him wrong.
All right.
yeah,
Change
Mhm.
the timeline.
Yeah.
Mandela effect.
totally.
Yeah. Right.
Right.
I
It's
guess
happening all the time.
Yeah.
Yep.
all the time, but we always think about the military doing it and these timeline viewing technologies and time travel being the cause of the change. Doesn't really occur to us that like other animals like dolphins could be literally manipulating the timeline as well. And who else? I just find it absolutely fascinating. And
ET, probably different races are
right.
doing work on that as well, I'm sure.
And it's almost like, you know, I was thinking the other day, like the dolphins and whales are like a bridge, it feels like,
Mm.
with humans and kind of getting used to connecting and relating to other species, you know, and you know, other than like off-worlders and things like that. It's almost like they're like that gentle bridge where you get comfortable with these communicating with the other species and learning telepathy and being with them. And they look a little funny, some of them, and things like that. But like
Yeah.
getting us used to that and preparing us for what's coming.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, like I said earlier, you even said they're helping with the planetary ascension. Quite literally, like getting free downloads from the ship and then, you know, transferring those frequencies into the planet. They're doing the same thing with us, and I think they're playing a huge role right now, and more than most people understand.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think if you want to have a quick shift in consciousness is, you know, go and have experiences in the water with the dolphins and whales. I mean, and even in captivity, yeah, that's what I realized too, is I remember when my kids were young being in SeaWorld,
Mm.
and you know, it's like there's tons and tons of people there, right? But you could also go and swim with captive bottlenose, and then there's beluga whales, and there's the orcas, and all those different things. And I remember walking by a tank that had the bottlenose, and this one bottlenose looking at me, and it was like what I realized is those ones in captivity put themselves there, they place themselves there on purpose, and they're activating different people as people walk by. Or because it was like right after that I was like, I have to swim with the dolphins, I need to swim with the dolphins now, you know. And it was like, you know, the as much as we don't want anything in captivity, they're also serving a purpose. And it's like the Hawaiian spinner dolphins, they won't allow themselves to be in captivity. They're only in the wild, but the bottlenose, they'll put themselves in those places. And so it's like each different species of dolphin and whale are all have their certain roles, just like everything in Mother Nature. You know, the elephants, they sound very much like the whales in the water. Their sounds sound very much like the whales on the land, you know, or I work with bees, and bees are saying the same kind of thing, like, come on, humans, get back into the mix, you know, because we're the missing piece is what it really feels like. You know, we need to get back in alignment
Yeah.
and really connect and make that connection back up. So then we're like, oh, okay, we can now work with the extraterrestrials and these other dimensional places. And yeah, so
they're like us in the sense that they're volunteering to come here, and they're putting themselves in
oh,
imprisonment,
Yeah.
and
good
but
way to put it.
but it's service to others. They're ultimately playing their part, and they understand it's only temporary, right? So
Sure.
yeah, and I love that. Obviously, probably it's circumstantial, not every scenario is the same, but I love that you had that experience. And is it true that they don't actually know where dolphins go at night or what they eat? Like, what I've heard things about, like their diet, not, we assume because we feed them fish and certain things, but like it's very rare that there's footage of a dolphin eating anything in the wild and where it's actually going, where they're going at night. Is that true? Or do you know anything about that?
Not a ton. I know that people have tried to follow the dolphins like all day and wait and see at night, and then you can only follow them for so long at night because it's so dark. And I know people that have tried that and then just at some point lost them trying to see where they go. I have seen them eating fish, I have to say.
Okay.
And that doesn't mean it's all of them, right? Maybe that's just to keep it 3D and things like that. But we have seen them feeding on different things, different species. And I have swam with them at night, which was a really fascinating experience when they were feeding. That was in the
Okay.
Bahamas, in shallow water. But I also think there's probably something to that with what you're saying that,
Yeah, I mean, I have no idea. Like, I don't even remember where I heard that, to be honest. But yeah, maybe there could be something to it. But like you said, like there's a 3D aspect of them that's probably surviving just like we are. So, I mean, gosh, is there anything else, like any stories or experiences you've had that you want to share that you haven't talked about yet that you'd like to share?
I don't know.
Oh, there's so many we could dive down and go down a lot of
Right.
rabbit holes, but I could think of, like, recently we just back from being in Bimini in the Bahamas, and out there they have it's Bimini is amazing in itself. It's like there's a lot of connections to Atlantis there. People have past lives that they all of a sudden remember. The island is surrounded by pyramids. I mean, Ed Casey talked a lot about that island, and that place in itself, to me, it's so multidimensional, so layered. You can see ships coming in and out of there. I mean, there's so much happening in and out of the water. And you talk to the locals and they have some wild stories as well. But this most recent trip that we did, where we were down there for a couple of weeks, and the spotted dolphins are different because as you swim, they'll swim with you, but if you keep trying to swim, they'll outswim you and just take off. But if you stop, they'll stop, and then they'll just kind of hang out in the water. And so there's all kinds I mean, Lisa's been swimming with them for much longer than I have, like 25 years, but there's a different kind of consciousness that they have as well. You can feel the elder energy that some of these spotteds have. And one of the experiences we had recently when we were out there is we were going along in the boat, and we had a group of people with us. And as we were going out, there was a stillness that so many of us on the boat were just like, what's going on right now? Like, there's an energy here that's just,
The water was
yeah, everything was flat. It was like you couldn't put it even into words. We were all just kind of in that awe and wonder of like, okay, let's not label it. Let's just be in it. Well, the spotted dolphin showed up, and there's also bottlenose out there as well. and we just started, everybody slowed to the point where all the dolphins were kind of just around the boat, and we were connecting in with our consciousness, and we ended up getting in the water with them. And then when we did, they just stood there vertical. I mean, stood. They they hung there vertically, and we went. People just surrounded them in a circle, and there was just this like 0 point energy. The stillness. Like it was just. There's really not any words, but I think it blew everybody's mind, because it's like that says everything when you can be in that still point. It just everything expands. And we were with them for quite a while like that, and we just kept matching our energy to it. The whole group was in there, and there was one woman that she didn't feel that comfortable swimming, and she needed some more help. And so she said, you guys just all go, and you guys just go. Well, at a certain point, everybody had gotten back on the boat, and the dolphins still just kept hanging right there with us. And so a group of us got her in the water, and all of those dolphins came and surrounded her and made sure she had the same experience that the group just did. I mean, she was just in tears, because it was so intentional, so loving, so mind-blowing and mind expanding. I mean, it's just incredible, the love that they share. I mean, and we all just felt like that experience is just going to reverberate. Like, we don't even know how it's going to unpack in our own lives, right? So yeah, that's just one experience that we had down in the Bahamas. But yeah.
Mhm.
I love that they're considerate.
Amazing.
They're thinking of everyone. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it's interesting you mentioned like the Atlantean connection and stuff like that. You know, it's so weird to me. Like if they showed up they showed up in this timeline in 1930s, but they probably were part of the Atlantean story, right? And yeah, so that's interesting. I was just gonna ask
Which that
something
reminds
else.
me, because Joan actually talks about she has memories of being there when Atlantis was falling. And she said that she was giving out drops for people to drink, and they could shapeshift into a dolphin. And
Oh,
back
wow.
so I mean, it's just a fun stories that she remembers when that was happening. Yeah. So I mean, and I wouldn't doubt it, because those spotted dolphins that surround that island, there's something they're doing there. They're working the frequencies. There's a lot of things happening down there. So yeah,
Mhm.
that Atlantean connection is
Yeah, and a large part of the Atlantean story is that, it all didn't fall. So there was what they call Atlantean outposts all around the planet that still are existing, but out of the frequency in another timeline. So there could be something happening there currently simultaneously. And so we can't rule that out. But what about mermaids and the aquatic people? Have you had any experiences? Have they ever come up? Are they part of the story?
Hmm.
we definitely
Yeah.
have felt their energy.
I think they've got to be part of the story, because I
Mhm.
think so many people are having memories and experiences, and I don't think there'd be so many people wanting to wear mermaid tails and swim in the water. It's like a visceral experience that people are having that maybe they don't have full memory of, but their body or their cells remember, because we're just in the last, I don't know, 15 years have watched it take off with people want to wear even the mono fin, which is, just a single fin instead of the two fins, or, the mermaid tails. It was big here for
Mhm.
a while, and
Or
watching
mermen.
the little
Yeah.
kids light up, and it's an interesting thing. I think it's a way for it to safely surface with people. That is a reality out there. I don't know that I've seen one in the physical, but we've definitely felt it
Mhm.
in different places.
Yeah, I don't think that they want to be seen yet,
It's not safe.
but you can definitely feel. That's where I feel like them going in and out of portals. All of a sudden, I can feel an energy, and then it's gone. It's gone quick. But then I think, like movies are showing us so much. Like, look at Aquaman. I mean, it's like that there's civilizations under the water that are existing, and
Mhm.
Oh yeah. I mean, we just
Sure.
interviewed a guy, Zaysan, who claims to have literally went down and seen one, and there's underwater like ET civilizations, but our military has like aquaports and stuff like that too. So
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, right. And we were in, was it June? We went over to another in the Caribbean Sea and we swam with the sperm whales. And I feel like they're a bridge to that world too. They're so otherworldly. It's just like they have the loudest, strongest decibel of sound of any animal on this planet. They could take you out like that with one of their sounds, but they're diving so deep down there, and the communication they have with each other that we witnessed was, I don't know, really sweet, really powerful.
Their clicks.
Their
too.
clicks, like hearing their sounds and their communication and their language was really fun to feel like in our bodies, and the way that they interacted with us. They have these really small eyes compared to the size of their body, their massive body. But when they're next to you and they're looking at you, it's something I've never felt before. It's just was a huge expanse of feeling and of being so present and that acknowledgement of each other. It was very intelligent. Like all I can think of is so intelligent. It was beyond something that I could even find words for. Of like that they're even on this planet is such a gift. It's really sweet.
I love that. I love that. So how many days a week do you actually get in the water and swim with them?
Well, we were swimming every day for years and years. And then, like I mentioned a little bit, they passed new regulations here, specifically only for the spinner dolphins, the ones that you met, making it illegal for us to be within 50 yards of them or for them to be that close to us. So it really shifted things here a bit with that species of dolphin. So, like I said, some people, when they're out swimming, they still come and see people and say hi because that's what they do and that's what they're used to. And you just don't know. I mean, they're in a ridiculous way. They're sending like armed police to the beach and on boats to come and give people tickets for being close to the dolphins. So it's insane.
That offends my soul on such a deep level. Like I can't even describe the anger that I feel right now. Like that's ridiculous.
Right. Well, like what is their like so-called reason for that? Like I don't even understand.
Yeah, exactly. Right. It makes no sense because you can swim with every other species that's here. Their reasoning was that we are disturbing their sleep.
Oh, really?
Just the fact that they use the word sleep because dolphins don't sleep. They're conscious breathers. They're awake all the time. They go through resting periods in and out of rest. If they fell asleep, they would die. So, and it's been coming and going for many, many years. They've been trying to do this. And I think that it's just come from, some other level of enforcement that's like, we've got to stop these people from being with them all.
Oh, of course.
Happening. Because also, for the state, just on a practical level, it was bringing in millions of dollars for the state as far as like boats and hotels and restaurants for people that were coming here just to be with these dolphins because it's something special that was created that is almost nowhere else in the world, where there's like a human dolphin community here that swims together every single day.
That is just the most infuriating thing. I'm actually like shocked at my reaction right now. Like what I'm feeling about that. It's so angering. I mean, it can't last. It's unsustainable. Like we're gonna break that, right? We're gonna eventually.
That's what it feels like. Because I too have that reaction and that feeling because it makes no sense in reality. And it has to shift, and I think, or maybe there's some reason we are supposed to be out of the water a little bit right now. Who knows, because I'm like, why would the dolphins and whales even go along with this? Why was this created? Like what's happening? But I can't imagine that it's going to sustain itself. I feel like it's temporary.
Yeah, absolutely. It has to be. The whole system is temporary. I mean, it's
collapsing.
Consuming. Yeah, it's collapsing. Yeah, it's consuming itself. Yeah.
Right. And when things shift, I think this will be one of those shifts too, because I think probably a lot of those organizations are not legally formed and managed anyway that are enforcing it, so
Yeah.
Mhm.
it's interesting, but it's also, for us, because we do lead retreats and we take people into the water to be with them, it shifted things for us a little bit, but now we go into the deeper water and see who comes to be with us. So now we have pilot whales coming to swim with us more, and false killer whales and rough-toothed dolphins and other species that are now coming in to interact, which has been really fun to see
Wow.
with our groups come out. So it's a little bit different to not have the spinners every single day, but it's an interesting thing to be. So now we're guided out into the deeper waters to see who wants
To see
to
even
hang out
more.
with us and see even more. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably, like you said, a higher purpose for it that we don't understand as well. And obviously, like, we're gonna shift back out of it, but still, that just, I don't know. It's like they're thinking of everything, right? They've thought of everything. It's like, the inflation and the taxes and all the whatever, and then all of a sudden, like, oh, you can't swim with the dolphins either. It's like, get the fuck out of here! Like, seriously.
I
Yeah.
know that's how they want to spend their time too. All these officers, like when on the islands, it's like, what about the drugs and child trafficking and all these other things going on? And you're going to come get these, naughty dolphin swimmers that are out there for an hour. And go about
Well,
their
that's exactly the thing. The system wants those things to continue, and that's a whole other rabbit hole. But so they do the like superficial stuff all the time, and then meanwhile, by design, the system wants all the drug trafficking, child trafficking, and really actual evil going on to continue, and it supports it, and then so it's like this whole fake thing going on. I mean, not saying cops, they do good as well. But they are a part of the system. They are a cog in that machine, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And like you said, they're getting orders from above them that
right.
you're
And
part of that machine.
yeah.
Unless a high enough percentage of them all wake up and like realize what they're doing and what they're in and say no, then because like they're humans too. They have the power. Blindly obeying orders is the opposite of morality. And if they wake up and realize, like, wait a second, and what I do is what I'm doing actually right, or am I just doing my job? The classic excuse for oh, it's okay because I was just doing my job. No, that doesn't make it okay.
Right.
But
Sure.
anyways,
They put out so much propaganda before this happened so that people would come and support it and believe they're really supporting these
right.
poor dolphins that need their help because we're, disturbing them kind of
Right.
thing.
It's always us that
Right.
are ruining. We're the ones ruining it. No one else.
Right.
Yeah.
But to me, it just shows you they're waking humanity up on a massive level, like so quickly, because it's, and it's funny that they would even put this into place because the dolphins choose to come and find us and be with us. And they can swim 25, 30 miles an hour. So, I mean, if they don't want to be with you, they're gone like that, which is, hilarious in itself. So the whole thing is just, you could see the absurdity of it all, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
It is absurd. I mean, after the shift, they'll be like walking around on the sidewalks with us. They'll be out there.
Right?
Right.
You're like, that was a funny time.
Right.
Yeah. So this has been fascinating. Is there anything else that you'd like to cover before we start wrapping this up? Anything else you'd like to plug? Retreats, films, anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, we'd love, people want to join us for an experience and dive into this and have some fun at the same time. We are leading retreats here in Hawaii. We have a retreat in February for 2 weeks, and then we're taking some groups to swim with the sperm whales again in April, and then going back to Bimini again in July and August. And right now, all of those still have some space left. So if anyone's interested in that, we have a lot of fun. We go deep and we go high. And it's it's about play and exploring consciousness and
Where can people sign up?
both our websites. Mine is lisadenning.com and Heidee's is HydeeTehana.com. And we have all the information on our websites. Or if people just have questions or want to chat, we're happy to be in touch.
Right. I mean, you got me thinking about it.
Yeah, like the way you're talking, it's time for you guys to come back.
Yeah,
Right.
we want to do more of those because it's just we see people shift so much during those retreats. I mean, and it's just come for 1 week or 2 weeks, and we deep dive into all kinds of fun topics, sharings, meditations, and things like that when we're not in the water. Great food, and it's just like-minded people. So we have a lot of fun doing the retreats, and then with Joan's movie. I mean, people can really immerse themselves in feeling the vibration of the dolphins and whales because she swam with, for the last 40 something years with all the different dolphins and whales. And so you can really hear, a lot of Lisa's footage of the sounds, like she was talking about the humpback whales, the dolphin sounds, all of those different kinds of things. So people that can't swim or don't want to come on the retreats,
Yeah.
check out the movie and just you can dive into her story and the consciousness that they're sharing with us right now. Because to me, it's like a tsunami of light is on the planet, and it's just the more the dolphin and whale consciousness can get out there, the more it activates us and reminds us who we are. And we actually have a premiere coming up in Hawaii on Sunday, where it's our first premiere of the movie, where it's going to be at a theater here on the Big Island, and Joan and John Luke are going to be there. Joan's going to answer a Q&A at the end and things like that. So I know there's some seats still available if people want to or are on the Big Island for some reason or want to fly out and be a part of that. So lots of fun projects, lots of fun things to do. And
Yeah, that's really awesome. I love it all.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe Aaron, we could do the 2026 conference in Hawaii.
Hey,
I just
I'm
popped
down for
in.
that.
Yeah.
Maybe
That'd be awesome.
maybe a
That'd
combo
be
thing.
amazing.
Yeah, journey
Do it.
to Big Kona, Big Island.
yeah,
Right.
be on the water and be on the land.
Yeah,
Yeah.
half and half. Kind of like the Cosmic
That'd be-
Waves event, like kind of modeled something like that. That
Yeah.
would be,
That would be amazing.
yeah. It would be it would be more expensive, obviously, but
Obviously, right.
but the smaller, but it's I mean, hey man, like
Be worth it.
it would be amazing.
Never know by then.
Yeah, who knows by then, right? Yeah, but
Right.
I'm not opposed to exploring that, and because I think it would be really awesome.
Mm.
I'm not either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this has been fantastic. Thank you so much
Yeah.
for doing what you do
Mhm.
and in spreading this message and this information. It's not well known. You can't, I mean, how many people can you go up to on the street and, convince that the dolphins come from another planet and they're going in and out of portals and disappearing? You know what I
Right.
mean? Like it sounds absurd to somebody, walking past you in the street, but it's not. There's a reality to it. I remember when I came back from that trip, I went into a metaphysical store and I told the lady at the store about what I experienced and how I told her about the portals and they were coming from another whatever. I just gave her the whole spiel. And she literally like had that fluoride stare and didn't know, like, no reaction, and then like changed the subject in a way to where like it didn't even register, just did not register. And I'm like, oh, people aren't ready for this yet.
It's still
And
plugged.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So
And
anyway,
people too can go, and if they're interested in some of Joan's books, I mean, she's got like Dolphin Connection. I read the Dolphins into the Future, and if you guys want to dive down some deep rabbit holes, it's all teleportation stuff and time stopping and telepathy. And she's coming out with her third book all about the whales, which should be out hopefully by the end of the year at the latest. So I mean, there's that whole aspect people can dive down into more. And she's also got her website, joannocean.com. And same with her husband, John Luke Bozzoli. He's just we can send you the link to that as well. But we have a lot of his art and some of his movies in Joann Ocean's movie, and that takes you into a whole nother world as well. So I mean,
yeah, I have one of his DVDs.
yeah,
I have one of his DVDs. Yeah, it just takes you. It's like a DMT trip. I mean,
yeah, it's exactly it. That's how he sees the world.
That's how
That's
he
what I
lives.
love, is
Mhm.
that multidimensional mother nature, really.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're connecting with the other frequencies for sure.
Yeah.
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 You're
And
like,
thanks guys for all that you're doing
Yeah.
and all of
Appreciate
the
it.
the guests you're having and all the truth you're spreading and, you know, questions you're asking and putting all these things out there. So it's wonderful to see you
Thank
guys.
you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, it's there's no going back now. We're in
No.
it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
You're out there now. Yeah.
Right.
And I know
Right.
Joan is looking forward to talking with you when the time works out for you guys. So that'll be
yeah,
fun.
that'll be amazing. I can't wait for that either. So, yeah, everybody go check out their websites. All the links will be in the description. Watch the film. It's called Ocean, right? And I personally haven't seen it yet. I might even just watch that today. Because it sounds amazing. But yeah, go check them out. And if you said there's spots left for the retreats, so if anyone's drawn to that, go do it. Like there's no better experience than getting in the water and swimming with these dolphins and this marine life. So thank you guys for everything that you do. And thank you guys for all tuning in. We love you all. We can't do this without you. And until next time, have a great evening or day, wherever you are. Good night. Good day.
It was further agreed that the alien nation and the United States would exchange 16 personnel each to the other with the purpose of learning each of the other. The alien guests would remain on Earth and the human guests would travel to the alien point of origin for a specified period of time, then return.
Well, what shocked me was how they selected the astronauts. But they went out and found people within the military that were orphans and didn't have any family members and weren't married. Now, that's a difficult task, even in 1960.
But this became quite a mainstay in early ufology of the 1990s, given that in addition to Request Anonymous telling this extraordinary story, there were several alleged DIA or Defense Intelligence Agency officials who were also coming in and saying, yeah, we have knowledge of this case too, and we can verify what Request Anonymous is talking about.
Could you estimate what his level of intellect was?
Smarter than me. He was smarter than me by a long range.